Well, hi again. I gotta learn how to get this off a wide angle. Look at how it's just so strange. Anyway, I got a light in there now, and I finished the throttle pedal. You can see I put a stiffener rib on here. Okay, I put a stiffener rib on the top. And not that anybody will see it. Sorry about that. But I welded it flush with this side in this case. And then I wanted to cover up that door hinge, you know, so it looks a little prettier, and add some stiffness. So works very nicely. I put a bend in the top, and you can't see the hinge, but of course this is spaced up 3/8 of an inch, so the sound deadening can go on, and then the carpet can go on, and then the steering column will fit in the middle, barely. And then here's a better shot of underneath. So and I'm gonna flip the light to here. Okay, so that is the factory steering wheel mount. These were rivets that I drilled out, 5/16 rivets, here and here. I'll weld those up, and I am in contact with, well, you know, close enough for the girls we date. Anyway, so that's gonna come out. This piece right here, oops, this piece right here is gonna come out. I'm under the dash, so that piece is gonna come out, and then I'll bend a piece that goes up, back. Let's see if I can do this so that you can understand. It goes up and supports the brake switch, back along here, and I don't know yet, down. It'll grab this, but I'm also gonna go and get a steering column for it too. So that factory one, I was gonna try to use a tube, and I still may, but at this point I thought a tube would be cool with a blinker switch strapped on for that more classic look. But that, the jury is out. If I can find a decent column with a shifter, I think I can get at the transmission. So I'm gonna powder coat those. That's the plan. And so you can see, oops, right now, those are the two bolts holding the throttle. So toward the camera, somewhere in this neighborhood, is where that steering column will pop out. Pretty high up there, pretty high on the floor. They're almost at that bend. This is that form line or stamp line is the bend going up. So, but you can see in the mess of wiring, there's the transmission shift linkage, and I believe in this crazy touch, let me get this light set up. I believe Okay, that is parked. So if I pull the lever's going to have to pull up. So I might be able to clock it from this side, from the driver's side or the camera side of the shifter. When I pull down on the lever, that goes up. I might be able to do that. If not, I will have to go with the bell crank setup. So we'll just wait and see what we got. But of course, if I go with the bell crank, I got plenty of mounts. You know, I got the bell housing mounts here, and they have a nice flat top surface. So I can probably grab that. I don't know yet, but thinking about the steering column now. Well, hello again. I did wind up finding a column for it. One of the key features was I wanted to be able to shift on the column. I wanted tilt, okay? And I wanted the transition to the dash to be round, like the traditional aftermarket GM columns. In this case, the transition to the column is round, okay? But I've got the newer style column. There's the airbag. But now I'll have all of my creature comforts, ignition, if I want to do the cruise control, the updated blinker assembly. I'll get rid of the airbag stuff on there. I won't be running an airbag, but in this case I'll have the turn signals and the wipers, delay wipers on the column. I'll need to get the appropriate wiper motor. I wanted to get the lights on the column, and I looked at a lot of foreign units, but the columns wouldn't work coming down through the firewall for me. So at this point, I'm going with the with this Dakota column. I've mocked it in. I also grabbed, while I was there, I grabbed the brake switch from the Dakota, and I keep track of all this stuff, right? I keep track of the year, make, and model. So in the event that I need to, and I always grab the connectors, in the event that I need to change it up or do something a little bit, you know, or change a connector or make an add or delete somewhere, I can reference that vehicle and get a replacement part for it. So that's where I'm at in the car. I've opened up the floor for the transition. I've mocked it up, and it's going really well. So again, in the process of taking basically 4 inches out of the column, I've collapsed the tube, and it has plenty in there to be able to collapse it down to a spot where I need to go. So all is going well. All is going very well. I'll keep you posted. Hey guys, okay, you saw I cut the eyebrow in there, rolled it back. This hole and this hole are for mounting the dash. These holes were in the dash. Those were the original top holes for the steering wheel brace. And now she's a little more complicated than she was before. Whoops, let me get that light out of there. Flip it this way. So now I took this piece here, formed this piece, bent it up, bent it back, and it's tacked onto that top brace. The top of this captures the dash, and see the 3/8 nuts there and there, they capture the column. I'm transferring my load, my forces up into this top brace, and I'm using the spacing, the plastic spacing from the original and the original steering wheel mount. Now I'm gonna flip this guy over so he locates and stays in. The other side will be hand inserted. It doesn't have a tit on it like this one. Then I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna trim all this material off here and here. I'll bend this edge over. I might cut it and re-weld it too. I just want to make sure I have a nice strong weld. After I built these pieces, then I realized, well, wait a minute. I am capturing my load, but I'm putting stress on this one angle. So I cut out these two pieces for each side. And I will grind in radius and all that. This one I went straight up. The shape is a little bit different from side to side to get the steering wheel where I want it. You can see the angle of the right side is different than the angle of the left if I can get straight on. And that's because the steering wheel is slightly over to the side relative to the brake. The brake is stepped over and clears the column. The gas pedal clears the column. I used actually the offset on the factory Dodge Dakota gave me the angle that I needed to the floorboard. So I used that. I chopped it up and made it square and all that kind of thing. I still have the top holes to mark and screw, but right now I'm just retaining everything so everything locates properly. And so now I'm at the phase where I can unbolt everything and weld up this whole assembly and form it. I think I'll pull the brake out. I did grab the brake switch and he will get mounted in also. He'll get mounted in on this. When I flop that guy over, he will get mounted in there. Yeah, he will get mounted in. I got my weld clamp in the way to come in contact with the brake lever at some point. I don't know, maybe down here. Okay, just get below the pin. So that's kind of how that's gonna go. Alrighty. Okay, so here's what I'm doing. This is flagged on both sides. Pieces welded in, looking from the inside. I'm holding it on the flag out. But notice on the top, I cut, just slowly digging into and cutting each one of those pieces off. Working around the tacks, cut it off, you know, cut this down, cut down, take the slice out. Cut in a material thickness so that I have a joint that is, you can see I'm right at the inside corner, and then stitch all the outsides. These I got in and cut to make a slot the width of the blade, 1/16 of an inch wider, you know, a little wider with the blade. Cut down. Do the same thing here. Miss the tacks, put a few in, keep going, and just make sure I keep the piece in place as I'm doing it. I don't want to change the shape at all. So anyway, that's done. That's ready for grinding and finishing. On to the next side. Well, there it is. There's the column mount. We're looking at it upside down. The dash mount, top dash mount, brake light switch, cowl, brake booster coming in, brake arm. I opened all these up so my wiring can go through there. My harness can run underneath the column. it can really go wherever I need it to go. So pretty happy with it. Very happy with it. Turned out great. Now when you look under the dash, I didn't grind the welds inside the, the individual pieces, because why? It's up under the dash. But if somebody does take a poke or a peek at it, you can remember the dashboard's around here, and then the steering column's right underneath there. And it'll be filled with wire and other things. But you got to remember, it's going to show well for a peeker that sticks their head under the dash. Very happy with it. Just priming it out with an etching primer and then black. Okay, I've assembled the brake, filled it, greased it up, nylock, 1/2 inch grade 8, firewall side, column, weld nuts, well, I can't see them, weld nuts in there, weld nuts for the dash mount. She really turned out nice. Very happy with it. In the process of putting her in right now. And then I'll come over and put the throttle lever in. And at this point I've got the backing plate and finished drilling my holes in the floor for the column and putting her together. Sorry about the light. Putting her together. All right. There we go. I could use a little spritzing down there, but I can catch that later. But everything's hung. It looks really good. I don't have the dashboard in, but I assembled up the plastic parts on the steering wheel. That's all working. This little widget there doesn't want to stay, but he's tucked under the dash, but doggone it. It'll go around the other side. Booster's hanging on. Brake switch. It's interesting, I took a look at that switch. It's got quite a few wires coming out, but I mean, some of these are tied, right? But it's really just three in, 3 out, and it's 3 individual switches, one normally open, two normally open and one normally closed, combined into one. So that's kind of an interesting setup. But anyway, that's in this little ring, this rusty ring right here. One of the reasons, see, that travels with the shifter. Positively, it's bolted to the side of the barrel, or riveted rather to the side of the barrel. And so that winds up being an excellent opportunity behind the dash, as the dash is sitting even with this, for me to put a gear selector pin, and I can cut out in the dash, because it's blank right here, cut out in the dash and put just laser print on a backing plate, piece of stainless or something, and put a clear lens on it and integrate it into my dash. So that winds up being slick, so I don't have to worry too much about my travel distance, as long as I can grab every position with the detents in the shift column and the transmission. But we're talking Dodge to Dodge here, so should work out very good. But boy, it really saddles up great. It's really nice and strong. I can wiggle the whole car with it. So, but I knew it would be because it's braced, you know, in X, Y, and Z, and like it should be. And I've got access to run wiring through, and I'm very happy with it. So that's good. That's an accomplishment as far as I'm concerned. All the pedals work right. It's tilt steering. It's all the way up right now, and there. Now it's all the way down. So I really like it. Really like it. It was a fun project. And with the transition from round to the square box, but then back to round on the steering wheel, well, I can very easily get rid of the big square here and get a decorative piece on there. Probably go with a similar diameter of 13 or 14. And that's later though. That's finished work. We're still in mock-up, or we're still in fabrication phase, but boy, what a nice setup. Thanks for watching. Keep the comments coming. I love the ideas. I love them. Take care. Well, howdy. So now that, well, let's go back over here. I started showing you something, but I think I showed you this, but now dash is in. I had a little bit of interference. I had to take a little chunk of metal off. It's a little thing about that big by about that wide. And now I'll have to paint it and dress it up. But it was up in right up light. Excuse me. Right there. See that cut? Oh, you know, I'll clean it up, but that's that. And so now I got the column in and mounted, dash in, no interference. Now I got to get from there to here. And so I got to use that old bell crank. Engine's got to be able to move, right? A little bit of rock and rolling. Pivot out here, pivot in here. So I happened to grab the Dodge truck shift fork when I got the transmission and all that stuff. This, 3 cuts. I cut here, I overlapped. Cut here, I overlapped, and then cut this final piece off where the red line is. And then I 45'd all the way around, chamfered all the way around both tubes, stuck that in the lathe, stuck that in the chuck in the lathe, and these two were on the exact same plane. So then all I had to do was clamp some strap iron on either side to clock everything back to its original position, and then just weld it back up. Weld it back up and grind it. You can see right there, I am not going to grind that off. You know, it's a manufacturing interruption there. That's just a couple of weld voids. Because it turned out too nice. So now I'm in the process of taking the old steering shaft, a piece of square tubing that I'd used in the past. I'm going to plunge this into here a certain distance so I get enough of a peak. So this will go in, it'll plunge all the way down, it'll bottom in there. And I'll give it some support, but enough to put 2 bolts in. To mount this side, which is the That's the steering column side. This is the transmission side. So I'm going to make that mount. I'm going to go with a plastic insert. This is a, oh, you get those kits for wheelbarrows and garden tractors. It's the ABS bush. And so that's going to go on to here. This has a wave washer, and that will go onto here and press into, or push into here, slip onto there. This will bottom onto here, so this side will be bottomed. So it will remove this in this direction from the vehicle, and I have yet to work on the support for this side. But there's got to be enough, you know, to give it 2 to 5 degrees worth of hibble dibble. But this side will hold it in, so this will just be in up against the wave washer, rotating freely. I don't think I'm going to put a C-clip on this side. This side I will put a C-clip on, or maybe not, depending on how I mount it. Both of these were cleaned all the way down. That's just dirt on there, or powder coat on there. But they were welded on the interior side at the factory and smooth on this side. So wave washer, you know, just a thrust washer or a machine bushing. Holding this in, I might do the same thing with the other end, depending, but the mounting configuration will be on the bell housing. So this side I'm getting done first. We'll take a look at that and see where she goes. All right, there it is. Cut that piece of angle. Made a little crown on it, a little ramp on each side. So I have structure now. I took this piece of tubing, chucked it in the lathe, faced both sides, opened it up to the size of the bushing. Actually the same size. I could, you know, I had to tap the bushing just a little to get it in. Opened up the bushing to the diameter of the shaft, cleaned the shaft. I put some grease on it. Put the wave washer on and the thrust washer, or backing washer, or machine washer. There she's in. Turns pretty good. Got a little bit of clearance. And it came out of the vise because I didn't have it clamped very tight. But that's just wonderful. That's just wonderful. Let me put that back in there. There. So now, again, this is the shifter side. I will go and I'll mount that on, run him across, find a good point, and then start fabricating this side to the bell housing. Almost there. All right, I got the inside bracket made. Rolled the edges up just to add some strength. Just took and polished it. It's not the prettiest thing, you know, welded up these ends. Once it's painted up, it'll be fine. But this basically, let me think now, attaches to like this. That bottom is a 1/2 inch hole, and that fits on the dowel pin of the transmission. This grabs, this hole grabs the bell housing, and then that winds up being the whatchamadigger, the shift rod. Don't know what the light's going to be like, but I think I got it. This is the first try. Serious as hardtack. I just got done sanding it. Now where am I at? So we can see I got it so that there, you can slip it on. Okay. Man, this is a bitch to do with pardon me, but I mean it is. Oh. Come on. That slips onto there. Come on. Oh my. Get it in like this. I just drilled that last hole because I found it from the back side. There we go. There we go. And then, I got you on it without any light. And then, oh my gosh. This I just located, but I did oversize it slightly. Where am I at here? I'm actually looking in the camera right now. Come on. You gonna line up? Okay, well, I can't do this with one hand. I just can't. But you can kind of see what's going on there. Okay, that's supported on that side. Getting under here. We're supported on that side. And, well, that's the bolt. This will come rotating around. Where am I at? Okay, right there. This is the one for the on the tranny. And at this point then, that connects to the column. And voila. We're almost there. Thanks for struggling with me. It's a good day. I got the goals done. Okay, we can see heim joints. This is the shift arm right here. Coming up. Connected to the transmission. On this side, I found a hardened steel bar. I had the bottom, I had to machine a bushing for this, but I had a T, you know, across. This was a 1/2 inch hole, this is a 5/16 hole. Double nut, and then up to the bushette on the top. So now it indexes. Listen for the clicks on the transmission. Reverse, yeah. Neutral, drive, and I'm hitting the stop on the, whoops. Oh, that was first, okay. Reverse, neutral, drive, second, first, goes up to drive. You saw it hit the detent, pull back. Whoop, that was reverse. There's neutral, reverse, park, reverse, neutral, drive, second, first, second, drive, neutral, reverse, park. It's hard because I'm doing it with my left hand outside of the vehicle. But it works. It hits the detent and it engages properly on the transmission. That's the nice thing about using factory pieces. You know, all the way from the transmission, the lever arms are all the proper dimensions and scale. So everything lines up. Everything lines up. Even though this is that was out of a Dakota, and that was out of a Ram, that 4L6E, 4R6E Chrysler transmissions used across those product lines. So the detents and the guts are the same, or the spacing between the shifts is the same. So shifter is complete. And now, you know, I don't have, you know, I got a little bit of grease in some of the bushings just to make sure I had it greased well, and I could, you know, push them together and pull them apart and see that it was holding grease. I didn't get my tolerances so tight that that I'd have a problem. So now, see how that dash sits up about 1.5 inches above the windshield? So the way the weather stripping worked on this, you can see it's a kind of a goofy channel. I'm going to fix glass. This had a glass that opened out and then sealed against here. So I'll be taking this down some in this area here. Probably cut as close to the line, and then hopefully just TIG it all the way across and sand it. And then I'll get over there and cut in my shifter and build in my backing plate and all that stuff. And then this part will be mocked in and ready to go. I can move on to something else. Still got to get that transmission dipstick tube fixed. I don't know if I showed you that, but that broke. I broke it. I welded it up a long time ago, and I hit it too many times and it fractured at the weld, which is probably a good thing. I did grab another one from salvage yard out of the truck that I got no, not that steering column, out of another Dodge Ram, a 98. So I'll clean that up and modify that, get that in. Let's go to the board. Oh, brake lines. Yeah. Brake lines. Trans dipstick tube. The roof, maybe I'll get that this weekend. I don't think I'll weld that in, but I think I can get that here. Maybe I will weld it in. Who knows? But I sure as hell got a lot of stuff done. A lot of stuff. Oh, and for the thermostat housing, these guys came in today. If you've ever used this stuff, it's heat shrink. That is so cool. So I'll slip the hoses off on one end, slide the heat shrink over it, and that'll be my clamps, because that'll never need to come off because it's a unitized piece. Isn't it beautiful? They're not cheap though, but it sure gives a good look. Later. Hey guys, not a lot to report here. Just wanted to kind of do a quick recap. I decided to put a block in right here, and I threaded the block through and through so that I could go through the cumbersome task of putting bolts through the interior side. This is, you can get in there, but access is really tough. And wrench through the block, and then I can mount my shaft on. I needed to move the shaft 1/2 inch over, and it's just an aluminum block. But I needed to move it over because as I got into my proportioning valve for my brakes, I found that I was going to interfere with it. So what I did was I wound up moving this over. I had to cut the other end because I was in contact with the transmission, so I moved over 1/2 inch. I cut 1 inch off of the end because there was plenty of stick out. And then I just decided to kind of go through and rebuild or finish this all out. So in here I put this is a bush that fits into the shift lever arm. Kind of hard to see, huh? Okay. That fits in tight to the shift lever arm, spaces the heim joint out just a little bit so that I can get a little bit of make sure that I don't have any interference if I get an angle on it. And that heim was on the other side. Now it's on this side because of the moving it 1/2 inch. But my alignment is much better there. Then I did a lot of adjustment on this just to get it in and feeding into the top. If you recall in the last video, there was a gap here. So I closed that gap off by tweaking and twisting and getting that alignment perfect. So I just spent a lot of time just getting it into a state of repeatability and reliability. All the bushes then will get some form of grease or lithium because they're metal on metal, just as they are in so many cars. But and then wherever I could use these, because they allow a little bit of Heim action, a little bit of twist, and a little bit of softening. And plus, when you go with something like that, plastic, lower diameter plastic, then you can get to elimination of vibration or transmitting up through the column. So that all worked out really well. Then I began, as you can see, I put that cat up back in the hole. I got to get a piece of tape on this or plug that, unscrew that and plug that, because I'm starting to route the brake lines, but I'm getting into the bend and how I'm going to do that. And so I need to mirror that, but that's all I have for brake line. So I didn't even come back and start straightening it all out. This will do one side, and I just went and placed an order for another, and then I got to thinking I do want to spring this gravel guard, whatever you want to call it. But it does a couple of things. It does protect it from impact, number one. Number two, it offers a amount of rigidity to the brake line, because somewhere in here I need to put a relief, and so that goes to the block, which is on the frame, and it'll mount right at that bend there, allowing for the body to move up and down, because it'll be sitting on rubber independent of the frame. A lot of times you'll see a coil, and typically at the master cylinder, because you're leading down from the master cylinder down to the frame. But in this case, I'm coming up to the frame, up to the body inside of that. So that's where I'm at. There'll be more later. So I ran out and here, let me just do this. So I ran out, got a power steering pump off of an old van, a GM van. These type 1 pumps are very, 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 very common, used in, they're Saginaw pumps used in GMs, Chryslers, just everything. Anyway, there's some change in reservoir configuration changes. The Dodges are a little more rounded, the GMs are a little more square. You know, these return lines are a little different but by and large the pump is the same. So I tore him down, went online and looked at a rebuild kit for this pump. $15. $15. And so long as there's no, I mean, those are the original machining marks on there. You can see a little bit of a wear line on the interior side. You certainly cannot catch a fingernail. So this setup is in great shape. Rebuild kit's $15. It's all the seals and the bushing, the replacement bushing for this shaft, which this too is in spectacular shape. Spectacular shape. So that's the stick outside where the pulley went on. So I'm going to rebuild this pump, clean it up, paint it, and have a new reman pump. $15. Can you believe that? In a little bit of time. Probably take me about 20 minutes.